Hello, hello, hello. Well, hopefully we won't have a dead weight partner. No guarantees even with this high of a level.
Недостаточно минералов.
Когда-то корпус Мёбиуса был под контролем императора Валериана Менгска, а теперь они выращивают гибридов, чтобы уничтожить Доминион. Я обнаружила в этом комплексе прототип боевого робота класса Балей. Он справится с гибридами, но мне нужны детали, чтобы завершить его сборку. Я рассчитываю на вашу помощь.
Недостаточно минералов. Нам нужно больше минералов. Требуется недостаточно минералов. Требуется больше минералов.
We already did this yesterday on EU, but we're doing this on NA now. For those of you who are might be just tuning in.
Нам нужно больше минералов.
Oh yeah, hit the weight.
Требуется больше минералов. Недостаточно минералов. Нам нужно больше минералов.
What's up, Lego John?
Наши
Контакт с враждебными
союзники
зерками.
вступили в бой.
How you doing?
Требуется больше веспена. Развитие завершено. Требуется больше минералов. Недостаточно.
Hey, did I have survived? Are you? I'm doing all right. Sorry to hear that you had a bad day. Hopefully, it's not too bad.
Осмелился напасть на нашу базу, он об этом пожалеет.
Развитие завершено. Наши союзники вступили в бой. Нам нужно больше веспена.
У нас уже есть половина необходимых деталей.
Наши союзники вступили в бой.
Hey, Andalorian. How you doing?
На базу наших союзников напали. Наши союзники минералы. Наши войска атакованы.
Confused what my teammate's doing.
Недостаточно минералов. Нам нужно больше минералов.
Вы только посмотрите. У нас достаточно деталей для запуска. Провожу предстартовую диагностику. Это недолго.
Бой с противником. Недостаточно минералов.
I imagine badly when you see it's a long term, but enough about real life. Talk about some aliens.
Достаточно энергии.
Yeah, let's kill some aliens.
Требуется больше минералов. Наши войска атакованы. Нам нужно больше минералов.
Это генерал Дэвис. Балий выдвигается к цели.
Наши союзники вступили в бой. Наши войска вступили в бой с противником.
Корпус Мёбиуса все не угомонится. Они пытаются вывести свои исследовательские материалы, пока мы уничтожаем результаты их экспериментов. Перехватите поезд с материалами и учеными. Справитесь?
Нам нужно больше минералов.
Я пробил стенку
Yep,
камеры.
choo-choo train's here.
Атакую гибрида.
Недостаточно.
Поезд уничтожен. Выживших не замечено. Пусть горят в аду за все, что успели натворить.
Союзники вступили в бой.
Приближаются отряды противника. Готовьтесь к обороне.
Требует.
Ow.
Гибриды мертвы, но они едва не уничтожили и Балий. Мне потребуется время на ремонт. В этом бою Балий был сильно поврежден. Мне потребуются детали для ремонта. Мы собрали половину необходимых деталей. Запуск Балия уже не за горами.
Something about Italy.
Нам нужно. Наши войска вступили в бой с противником. Требует. Наши союзники вступили в бой. Наши союзники вступили в бой. Завершено. Недостаточно минералов. Эволюция завершена.
I made an overseer? Since when?
Эволюция.
I'm doing all sorts of things without even knowing. I'm in bed till morning. It's hard to hear that. About the back pain, you know?
Требуется больше минералов.
I know how that is for sure. Like I have a back brace I wear now whenever I go out.
У нас есть
It's almost getting to the point where I have to wear my
необходимые
back brace even when I'm sitting in this
Спасибо
chair.
вам за помощь. Боевые системы в порядке. Проверяю систему безопасности. Потерпите.
К нам идут вражеские войска.
Наши войска атакованы.
So yeah, I understand what you're,
На базу
to an extent, what you're going through.
наши союзники.
But guys, that hybrid is so massive. And then it's dead.
На базу наши войска вступили в бой с противником.
Yeah, that's no good.
Разведка сообщила о втором поезде. Не забудьте его встретить.
Наши войска
Направьте силы на перехват поезда.
вступили в бой.
Stupid leaf boy.
Наши войска
Координаты камеры гибрида
She's
получены.
definitely saying that.
Направляюсь туда.
I don't know why she's calling me a stupid leaf boy.
Наши союзники вступили в бой. Наши войска атакованы.
Ох, если бы всех подонков и предателей ждала такая же судьба.
Наши союзники вступили в бой.
Камера пробита. Огонь по гибриду.
Наши эволюция завершена.
Противники хотят нас уничтожить. Тамплиеры, дайте им достойный ответ.
Цель уничтожена. Теперь пора немного подлатать Балия.
This is the, yeah, this is the mutation, but I'm doing it on NA now, and because I did it on EU, I'm doing it now on NA.
Подготовка Балия к запуску почти завершена. Скоро я поведу его в бой.
The fatal attraction mutation.
Наши войска вступили в бой с противником. Наши союзники вступили в бой. Наши войска атакованы. Наши союзники вступили в бой. Недостаточно энергии.
Я готова. Направляюсь к камере гибрида.
Эволюция завершена. Наши союзники вступили в бой.
Используется максимальное количество припасов. Враги направляются к нашей базе. Займитесь ими.
Ноги.
Super easy.
Камера пробита. Открыть огонь по гибриду.
GG. It's easy when you don't have somebody that's like level 1. Yeah. And you're on a higher prestige character than level 14 Zagara, whatever, or 12 Zagara. We got a point. Alright guys, well that was the stream. Thanks for watching. Nah, just kidding. But I don't even know what the hell else to do now. To be honest. I mean, I could try to finish The Last of Us, but I don't even know. I mean, I guess we only streamed for 20 minutes. Play a game that makes you happy? Well, that's a unfortunate statement, because right now nothing. Nothing does that, so... Watch funny videos then? You know, I know a game that we could try. We'll just be by ourselves doing it. I know a game. We don't know how to play this game at all, so this will be top tier content. And come over here and disable that. And change the capture to this. Ugh. But like I said, I don't know how to play this game, so this would be interesting. You know? Tadpole? I don't know what any of this means, but let's go for it. The Afraid of Heights game? Yep. The game that's about being scared shitless. Apparently, every single time we go on a flight, though, we crash. How not to die. I unfortunately don't even know how to turn pages. Oh, flip pages, scroll wheel. Okay. Never abandon a friend in need. Oh, what a great ecstasy in this life. Then crunching down on a succulent granola bar while the wind blows across your scalp on top of the world's finest miraculous mountaintops. Anyway, let's go. Let's just read the rules. Keep moving. First things first, you gotta get the high ground if you want to be spotted. Nobody ever gets rescued off a mysterious island by loitering around on the beach. So find the nearest peak and start making your way there. Time is of the essence in the wilderness, so get running towards your destination. Jump. Okay. Spacebar in air, grab wall, shift while climbing lunge. Emptied hand, help a friend, crouch. Okay. Stay hungry. Actually, don't get hurt. It's the only way for your stamina to go downhill fast as you climb. Okay. I just learned how to use my backpack. So we gotta get up there, and we're a novice. Oh, we're hungry. We're not overly hungry yet, though. I don't know what's a suitable amount of hunger before you need to actually eat something. All right. I'm poisoned? That jellyfish thing poisoned me? All right. I'm gonna go this way. Oh, I meant to go this way though. No. Alright, started falling a little. I don't know if I could climb up that. I guess I can. Oh, I'm poisoned. Uh-oh. I don't know what the balloon does, but I'm using it. Okay. Oh, we're gonna fall. Just kidding. We're too good. No. Damn. Oh yeah, I don't remember how you emote in this. No. Damn it. No. I'm dead. Well, we made it. We beat the game. What's going on here? Oh, nothing important. Alright. But now that I don't know what to do. Shoot some b-ball. Alright, Lego John, take it easy. This is the only reason why you play Peak, right? Adrian Spoof. Maybe I could play, I was thinking about doing some Red Alert 3, but I need somebody to play with for the co-op. But nobody plays that shit anymore. I don't know. I think I've already had my fill of Peak, though. Definitely not as great if you're solo, but I mean, I understand the appeal of the game. Now this one we gotta bring back the noise. All right. Yep. I also have to hide the server, or not the server, but I have to hide the screen for a little bit longer, so people don't know where I deploy. Even though like nobody's watching that plays Foxhole yet. I still need to take precautions. All it takes is one instance for somebody to freaking ruin my life. All right. There's no binoculars. Wait, we have no fuel? Oh no. Oh, it's just on the other side now. We're gonna make quite a bit of ammo. That's the plan today. Converting so we can get ourselves mats. All right. Let's see what we can get started with that. I might need to start using a flatbed for this. Go. We'll come back for more. There we go. And then we'll just move on over. Right now, we're better off getting some of those components than none of them. If they're still there. Fuck, someone's over there. So that we'll get maybe half lucky. Fuck. The other one. Man. Some fucker already cleaned it out. People are fast with that shit, too. It's my first time getting components from freaking yard here. And we're off. We gotta go straight. Yeah. See. There we go. Now we can get to making more ammo. All right, well, it's only gonna take a couple minutes. Let's see. All right, well, let's see if we can actually get that shit. There we go. I'll come back and get that stuff. fact, I might go and get myself a flatbed instead. So I can get a bunch of resources. Building. Oh no no no! That was close. Hopefully, I'm not blocking the way. I know I'm assembling shit right now. Then. Oh, there's Doug. Well, look who it is.
Spawn more overlords.
Hey, thanks for the raid, Saint of Failure. How you doing? Welcome, Raiders. Welcome to the stream, and thanks for the raid. I'm assuming you're a Foxhole streamer. How's it going? You're a warden medic. Nice. I'm brand new to the game, so I'm learning Logi right now for wardens as well. I might be blocking this path. actually surprised at that. Nope, I was gonna say there's no way that that's gonna go through. That's cool though. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the front lines. I've just been learning the importance of logistics before I do stuff like that. Oh, whoops. Here, I'm trying to. Logistics is important, so keep up the good work. Thank you. Yeah, I just don't know. I'm assuming I have to move it closer to any other thing I might want to take. Oops. No, 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 no. Oh, no. I'm going to have to freaking do it again. Well, that's how it goes. Yeah, I made my first tank yesterday with through the help of some friends showing me how you do it with the hammer. So it's pretty neat. I definitely want to get these components. Can I not put this in my resource container? I'm still learning the ropes, so I'm not sure. I like where I'm sure there's. I know there's definitely faster ways. It's just still trying to figure things out, you know. Oh, that's right. We just sit here and wait. I'm gonna sit here for a bit and do this. His components are pretty important, so Let me see if we can watch a YouTube video while I do this. You know, we'll put it up on the screen someplace. While we do this. Screw it. Well, I don't want to distract myself too much. I could just do it like this. I'm just gonna hit E, keep putting it in. We need 2,400 of these in order to make one tank. If I wanted to make it, well, yeah. Somebody else is at the other one. Looking mighty grim right now when it comes to the battlefield. Okay. I want to see where there are other mines. Okay, I see one there. They're not too different. And they're closer to the front lines. And then okay. That one's got more there, but there's no guarantee that we'll actually get anything from it, because by the time we get there, it could be emptied. And on top of that, it could also be enclosed off by somebody. So we're better off just waiting here. It won't take long. Probably like another 30 minutes. At least that's my guess. I guess let's watch a video. Let me look up some Foxhole Wars. I'm kind of curious what it's like. You know,
After 7
yikes, that was loud. Just put this like right here, and then we'll watch this while
days
doing
of
this.
grueling back and forth fighting, the Fallout War has finally ended. This was one of the longest, bloodiest, and most nuclear wars Foxhole has ever seen. Let's take a look to how it unfolded and how it came to its explosive conclusion. The war began on June 16, 2005 with 7 neutral victory points up for grabs. This was the most neutral territories we've ever seen at a war start. The Colonials wasted no time and captured the capital cities of Farragut Coast, Lockmore, Deadlands, Marbin Hollow, and the Claustra.
I wish I knew what the early game was like. I want to know how it starts. Like, he's just kind of diving right into it because this is mostly a video made for veterans, I guess you could say. You know, people who are experienced with the game. But I'd like to see how the game starts when it's a fresh server. You know, from a new player's perspective.
While the Wardens captured the capital cities of King's Cage and Endless Shore. That put the opening score at 20 out of 32 for the Colonials and 19 out of 32 for the Wardens. Over to the west, in Fisherman's Row, the Warden Regiment's 6th, Warden Navy, and Scum launched an early offensive, seizing most of the bases and essentially securing the island region. Meanwhile, in King's Cage, Wardens and Colonials clashed in the southern sector, a fight that would drag on for 27 days before any real shift occurred. The Deadlands also fell to the Colonials on day 1, and the Wardens wouldn't return there until 42 days later. Marbin Hollow became another Colonial stronghold early on, with the Wardens forced back to their last base in Mox, located on the northeast edge of the region. The road between Mox and Oster Wall would go on to be one of the most brutal fronts of the entire war, seeing endless fighting and ultimately racking up over 900,000 deaths, making it the second deadliest region of the war. In the Claustra, the Colonials dug into the capital city, the Treasury, and would hold firm there for the next 19 days. By day 2, the Wardens made a counterattack in Farragut Coast, retaking the capital city of Jade Cove, and shifting the score to 18 for the Wardens and 19 for the Colonials. From there, they pressed south toward Victa, setting the stage for another drawn-out fight. The road between Jade Cove and Victa would be contested for the next 19 days, and by the end, Farragut Coast would be the 3rd deadliest region of the war, with nearly 800,000 deaths. On day 3, the Colonials launched their invasion into Callahan's Passage. This region would go down in history as the longest contested battlefield Foxhole has ever seen, and it would set a grim record with more than 1.1 million casualties, the highest death toll ever recorded in a single region. On day 4 and 5 of the war, no territories exchanged hands as both factions dug into their positions. You may see going forward that I skip a few days of this war. That's intentional, as nothing worth noting happened on those days. By the 6th day of the war, both factions had unlocked rocket artillery. From this point forward, fire rockets rained down almost non-stop. Defenses were constantly set ablaze and
I want to shoot one of those, the MRL.
built, only to be burned down again in an endless cycle. Despite this chaos, no significant territories changed hands. The following day, the Wardens completed their conquest of Fisherman's Row, driving the Colonials off the island entirely. With the region secured, they began prepping for naval operations into Stemma Landing. It was also around this time that the total casualties for the war surged past 1 million. On the 8th day, a strange glitch struck the war effort. Players and vehicles began falling into what became known as the Void, halting progress across multiple fronts. Luckily,
That reminds me of BDO, like this right here. In Black Desert back in 2017, we called them the Bermuda Triangles, but it would be spots where players would fall through the floor off, and they would fall to their deaths off the map, even though they were on the map. They would fall to their deaths and lose all their shit. So that sounds a lot like what this game experienced.
began falling into what became known as the Void, halting progress across multiple fronts. Luckily, the devs were able to patch up this issue on the very same day, allowing the war to grind forward once more. Day
That's much better than Black Desert. Freaking, it took months for them to fix it.
9 saw the conclusion of the famous bridge battle between Tomb of the First and Mercy's Wish. In most wars, this fight drags on for weeks, but this time the Colonials launched a massive infantry push backed by waves of fire rockets. Mercy's Wish fell quickly, forcing the Wardens to retreat back to the Linn of Mercy. For the first 10 days of the war, the front lines had settled into familiar patterns. The Colonials had locked down Lockmore and secured the Deadlands, and pushed deep into Callahan's Passage. The score stood at 19 for the Colonials and 18 for the Wardens. Marbin Hollow remained a blood-soaked stalemate, with neither side making meaningful progress. At the Battle of Mox and Oster Walls, this is what one Warden player had to say about the fight. In Marbin Hollow, the Colonials have been going back and forth with little progress made. It seems like every day they shoot artillery and we repair. Then we shoot our artillery and they repair. I've been near the Oster Wall relic base for who knows how long. I'm new to this war, but I'm still enjoying building and digging trenches." End quote. On the 11th day of the war, the Warden seized control of Tempest Island. From there, they repeatedly tried to break into the Fingers, but every assault failed. The freeze
What I really want to know is how do I know how many days a war has been going on for in this game? I don't know at the moment, so.
state of the Fingers held strong for the entire war, and the Wardens were unable to capture the region. For several days afterward, from day 12 through 14, the front lines remained largely unchanged, but on the 13th day, casualties had already climbed past 2 million. On the 15th day, larger naval ships were unlocked. The Wardens began constructing fleets and launching invasions into Stemma Landing. It took several failed attempts, but eventually they were able to secure a foothold. That same day marked a breakthrough on land as well. After weeks of deadlock, the Wardens finally broke the stalemate at Oster Wall, pushing the Colonials back toward the capital city of Maiden's Vale. During day 17, the Wardens captured all of Endless Shore, driving the Colonials out entirely. At the time, the Wardens didn't know it, but this would be as far south as they would go. They would never manage to break into Reaver's Pass, and this line would become their limit for the rest of the war. However, on day 18, the Colonials struck back. Waves of tanks poured into Endless Shore, and after a massive counter-offensive, they captured Saltbrook. This was the first victory point shift since the beginning of the war, giving the Colonials a score of 20 while the Wardens dropped to 17. And the Colonials didn't stop there. By the end of the day, the Wardens had been driven entirely out of Endless Shore. In the Claustra, the Colonials continued their momentum, pushing the Wardens back towards Weathered Expanse on the 19th day. Over the next 42 days, the front would remain bitterly contested. The Wardens would manage to hold Weathered Expanse, but the towns of 3rd Chapter and the Vault in the Claustra changed hands repeatedly as the two sides fought in an endless cycle of attacks and counterattacks. By the 20th day of the war, casualties had already surpassed 3 million. The only major change
How long do wars last in this game, too? I'll need to look that up.
from the very start of the war were the Colonials' control over Endless Shore and the Claustra. All other fronts remained relatively the same. On the 21st day of the war, the Wardens launched relentless waves of infantry, tanks, and fire rockets against Victa. After days of pressure, they finally broke through, shattering the Colonial defenses, and finally drove them out of Faranac Coast, forcing them to retreat back towards Westgate. Meanwhile, in Marbin Hollow, the Colonials retook Oster Wall, reigniting the bitter back and forth between it and Mox. For the next 12 days, this stretch of road would once again again be a killing field, with little territory gained by either side. During the 22nd and 23rd day, the Wardens attempted multiple large-scale naval invasions into Stemma Landing, but each one ended in failure. Then, on the 24th day, after steadily losing ground for more than a week, the Wardens rallied for a massive counteroffensive. The push brought new energy and morale to the faction. They reclaimed Saltbrook and Endless Shore, restoring the victory point balance to where it had stood at the start of the war. 19 for the Colonials and 18 for the Wardens. This is what one Warden player had to say about that day. "It was so fun. I joined the game on Wednesday, so it was an absolute blast being able to take part in my first operation." End quote. Over in the Western Islands, after persistency finally paid off, and after 3 failed naval invasions, the Wardens finally had a successful invasion and secured Stemma Landing, and took control of almost all the island regions, leaving only the Fingers as the last colonial-controlled island on the map. This is what one player had to say about the last invasion into Stemma Landing. "The Colonials had no idea we were coming. We came with a long hook and hit hard and fast. The town base was down in a few minutes as the long hook unloaded its crew and took the town hall." End quote. On the 25th day of the war, nukes were unlocked for both factions. Launch pads could now be constructed, and the race to assemble the first weapon of mass destruction had begun. From this point forward, the war changed completely. By the 27th day, the Wardens had managed to secure all of King's Cage, and even pushed briefly into Sableport, but this would mark the farthest advance south they would achieve in this lane. During day 28, the Warden hold on Endless Shore collapsed. The Colonials stormed Saltbrook once more, driving the Wardens not only out of the city, but out of the entire region once again. By this day, the death toll for both factions has surged past 4 million. Towards the end of the day, the Colonials became the first faction to complete a nuke site, establishing it in Westgate. To counter the looming threat, the Wardens set up
there's
a
somebody
bounty
already
system.
there. Okay.
Anyone who succeeded in destroying the Colonial nuke would be rewarded with resources and vehicles to use as they pleased. For the 30-day recap, only a few major territorial changes had occurred since day 20. The Wardens secured all of Faranac Coast, while the Colonials held Endless Shore. On every other front, the lines barely shifted. In Callahan's Passage, territories continued to swap hands constantly, with bases changing ownership daily but never being held for
Just switch
long.
to the other
On
one,
the
but the guy's
31st day, the
AFKing
first
there.
nuke of the war was launched. Fired from Westgate, the Colonials' warhead struck the Warden capital of King's Cage, obliterating the Manacle. This explosion decreased the total victory points needed to 31, putting the Colonials at 20 out of 31 victory points, and 16 out of 31 for the Wardens. For the next 17 days, fighting raged in the north.
Does that mean then that that city's permanently gone? That must. I mean, obviously that must be what that is when they remove a point. But shit, you can't rebuild it or anything.
Northern part of King's Cage without any decisive changes in the lines. Unfortunately, the bounty on the Warden side for destroying the nuke was never claimed. The organizer of the event said that everyone had a lot of fun making attempts to kill it, and will probably do more things like this in the future. And with the first nuke launched on this day, it set the tone for the rest of the war. None of us could have predicted what was coming. By the end, 18 more nukes would be detonated. The primary targets were capital cities and towns with storage depots, which devastated the supply lines. Logistics became one of the hardest jobs this war, with many Logi players later describing it as one of the most grueling experiences they had ever faced. With much of the central map reduced to radioactive ruins, there were few safe places to drop off crates for storage or for staging operations. Keeping the front lines supplied became a nearly impossible challenge. By the 33rd day of the war, the Colonials finally achieved a breakthrough in Marvin Hollow. After weeks of grinding combat along the short road between Mox and Oster Wall, they managed to seize Mox itself, pushing the Wardens out of the region entirely. The capture was a massive morale boost for the Colonials, who had been locked in that brutal fight since the opening hours of the war. To the east and Stilken Shelf, the Colonials also made gains, pushing deep into the southern half of the region. During day 34, the Colonials pressed their advantage in the Linn of Mercy, capturing the capital city of Ulster Falls and shifting the score to 21 for the Colonials and 15 for the Wardens.
Man, it seems like Colonials kind of kick ass in this, at least early on in this video.
For the next 6 days, however, Ulster Falls would change hands repeatedly, as neither faction was able to hold it for long. On the 35th day, the Colonials surrounded the Port of Rhyme and Stilken Shelf. The Wardens, desperate to hold their last base in the region, threw everything they had into the defense. One Colonial player had this to say about the siege: "It was pure chaos. The Wardens were throwing every tank and shell they could at us. They hold on the Port of Rhyme this time, but we would be back." End quote. During day 36, the war saw its second nuclear strike. The Wardens launched a warhead from Weathered Expanse into Marbin Hollow, obliterating the colonial capital of Maiden's Vale. The blast destroyed much of the colonial supply network, allowing the Wardens to surge back into the region, retake Mox, and re-establish a foothold. The nuke shifted the score to 19 out of 30 for the Colonials and 16 out of 30 for the Wardens. That same day, the total casualties passed 5 million for both sides. By day 37, the Colonials had stabilized in Westgate. They halted the Warden advance and counterattacked into Faranet Coast to reclaim Victa, a city they had lost 16 days earlier. At the start of day 38, the third nuke was launched. It was fired from Westgate from the Colonials and it targeted the capital city of Jade Cove. The nuke dropped the total victory points down to 29, which made the new score 19 out of 29
Yikes.
for the Colonials and 15 out of 29 for the Wardens. This is what one Warden player had to say in the final minutes of Jade Cove. The Colonials had spent the whole war trying and failing to take the ramp. As the nuke timer ticked down, the Wardens put up a fierce defense at the ramp, but us Wardens knew that it was all in vain. We held firm even with 2 minutes left before it hit. I led the Wardens in a glorious bayonet charge to show the Colonials we would never back down, but still the city was nuked. I just want to say good fight to the Colonials." End quote. Even as Jade Cove burned, the Wardens launched a massive counterattack to the east. A wave of tanks rolled into Stilcan Shelf, and they overwhelmed the Colonials and drove them out of the region. By day 40, 3 nukes had already been detonated, with the
Jeez.
score holding at 19 for the Colonials and 15 for the Wardens. The only major fight during these days continued to be Ulster Falls in the Linn of Mercy, a capital city that continued to exchange hands constantly without a decisive winner. On day 42, the fourth nuke was launched. This time the Wardens launched from Weathered Expanse, obliterating the colonial capital, the treasury, in the Claustra. The score shifted once again to 18 out of 28 for the Colonials and 15 out of 28 for the Wardens. That same day, the Wardens achieved another milestone. For the first time since day 1, they pushed the Colonials out of Callahan's Passage and back into the Deadlands. Though their invasion into the Deadlands wouldn't last long, their momentum from the previous day carried into the next day on day 43, as the Wardens drove the Colonials even further back into Lockmore, a regions the Wardens hadn't touched since day 9 of the war. But this resurgence was short-lived. Within the next 4 days, the Colonials rallied and pushed them back once more, forcing the Wardens to retreat toward the Linn of Mercy once again, and to never return to Lockmore for the rest of the war. By day 44, the Wardens had taken nearly all of Marbin Hollow, leaving only the city of Lockheed in colonial hands. Lockheed has always been notoriously difficult to capture because of its long bridge approach, but even this natural defense wouldn't save it from what was coming later this war. Towards the end of this day, the total casualties for the war would hit 6 million for both sides. During day 46, the Wardens captured Saltbrook and Endless Shore for the third time. This would prove to be the final time the city ever changed hands during this war. Also on this day, Colonials would begin construction of 4 separate nuke sites across the map, setting the
Another
stage
one-
to turn
another
the front
set?
lines into
Jeez.
a complete wasteland. On day 47, the Wardens managed to reclaim Victa once more, and launched one last desperate push into Westgate, but the offensive faltered and the advance failed. During day 48, the 5th nuke of the war was launched by the Colonials from the Drowned Vale, striking Foxcatcher in Weathered Expanse. Foxcatcher was a key refinery town, and with its destruction, the Wardens lost one of their most important resource hubs along the midline. This would weaken their ability to supply and defend the surrounding regions. That same day, the 6th nuke of the war struck the Western Front. Fired from Sableport, it landed on King's Cage in the Bali. The town's storage depot was one of the few Warden supply depots in the area. With it gone, the Colonials gained a much easier path to attack the
So Colonials got the first nuke out, and it seems like it's snowballed ever since then.
northern part of the region. On day 49, the 7th nuke was launched, this time on Ulster Falls, the capital of the Linn of Mercy. The city was completely destroyed, putting the score at 18 out of 27 for the Colonials and 14 out of 27 for the Wardens. Out of the devastation, one Warden soldier survived. His name was Otto. His survival became legendary. Various Warden groups formed cults around him, hailing him as their leader. Somehow, Otto's story reignited Warden morale and gave their faction renewed energy. For the next 12 days, both factions would clash fiercely along the northern side of the Linn of Mercy. Meanwhile, to the west, the Colonials pushed the Wardens out of Westgate and back into Faranet Coast for the final time. The Wardens would never return to Westgate for the rest of the war. By day 50, a total of 7 nukes had already been dropped, tying the record for most nukes in a single war. The fiercest front was the ongoing colonial assault in Stilcan Shelf. After weeks of battering against a massive underground fortress, the Colonials finally broke through and began pushing deeper into the region. This is what one Colonial player had to say about that battle. "It feels like this war will never end. Another nuke was launched, another 4 launching soon. At the moment, I have spent a lot of my time in Stilcan Shelf today. We fought up to the underground bunker. Wave after wave of Wardens we fought. Wave after wave they were cut down. And wave after wave of brave Colonial men and women died during our Hydra rush, until eventually we forced it to fall. forcing the Wardens back even more, forcing them to retreat further into the city. End quote. Also on this day, the 8th nuke was dropped. It was sent from the Colonials and Allod's Bite to Stilcan Shelf and destroyed the city of Vulpine Watch. Another storage depot town was wiped off the map, cutting off
Man, Wardens are getting their ass kicked.
most Warden supplies in the west. The Colonials then secured the entire western side of the region soon after. On day 51, the 9th nuke detonated. It was launched from Westgate against the relic base Terra in Farinac Coast. While Terra wasn't a victory point or a supply hub, the nuke was fired to prevent the Wardens from launching their own nuke. The Colonials also destroyed a second Warden nuke site in the region when their massive railstorm cannon Gran reduced it to rubble. Losing 2 nuke sites in a single day was a crushing blow to the Wardens. Morale plummeted and the Colonials' nuclear dominance seemed unstoppable. On day 52, the 10th nuke fell. Fired from the Deadlands, it struck the capital city of Callahan's Passage. This blast shattered Warden defenses and opened the door for the Colonials to re-enter the region after 11 days of heavy fighting to keep them contained in the Deadlands. The score now stood at 18 out of 26 for the Colonials and 13 out of 26 for the Wardens. During day
How could they
53,
come back
the
from
Wardens
this?
launched another counterattack, pushing back in several regions including Farinac Coast, Lynn of Mercy, Callahan's Passage, Marbin Hollow, and Stilcan Shelf. They
How could they even come back from that? Like, they're getting nuked nonstop. The Wardens managed to launch what, like 2 nukes?
also destroyed a colonial nuke site in Lockmore that had been targeting Fading Light, an important refinery town in Stone Cradle. That same day, the war's total casualties would pass 7 million. On day 54, the Wardens fired the 11th nuke of the war, launching from Callahan's Passage into the Deadlands and obliterating the capital city of Abandoned Ward. The blast wiped out critical infrastructure including a storage depot, a factory, and a garage, and it updated the score to 17 out of 25 for the Colonials and 13 out of 25 for the Wardens. The very next day, on day 55, the nukes continued to rain down. The 12th nuke fell. This time the colonial forces sent it from King's Cage into Stone Cradle, destroying the capital city of Buckler Sound. The score shifted again to 17 out of 24 for the Colonials and 12 out of 24 for the Wardens. With Buckler Sound destroyed, this would open up the region for the Colonials to advance further north, and despite the near daily nuclear strikes, most of the other front lines barely moved. On day 56, the war officially became the longest in Foxhole's history, and this is what one player had to say about the war. Looks like the Forever War is going to break records for longest war, most nukes, and most deaths. Great job to both factions for making this a historic war." End quote. No major shifts in territory occurred on this day. Most fronts were focused on evacuating supplies from seaports and storage depots before the nukes landed. During day 57, the Colonials launched the 13th nuke, firing from Inlet Shore into Stilcan Shelf to destroy the capital city of Port of Rhyme. This brought the score to 17 out of 23 for the Colonials and 11 out of 23
There's no way
for the
that
Wardens.
Wardens win.
The Colonials attempted to press their advantage into Morgan's Crossing, but the Wardens would hold them back for the remainder of the war. That same day in Stilcan Shelf, nearly the entire region had been reduced to neutral territory, with only a single Warden base still standing. On day 58, for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, no nukes were launched or planned. For at least one day, the war would once again be fought with tanks and rifles instead of nuclear fire. Day 59 saw a major shift on the Western Front. After nearly the entire war being fought over Farinac Coast, the Colonials finally forced the Wardens out of the region and back into Nevish Line. The Wardens would never return to Farinac for the rest of the war. By the end, the region would stand as the 3rd deadliest battlefield with over 783,000 deaths. That same day, a story surfaced on Reddit from a Colonial player named Clickbait, who delivered an incredible 1,000 crates of BMATs to Brackish Point and Endless Shore. Armed with only a flatbed, the run took roughly 70 trips from Terminus, and it amounted to 100,000 BMATs uncrated. This massive logistical effort helped fuel the Colonial push forward. The player had this to say about their experience: "I wanted to see if I could cook and deliver before the Warden weekend, so I released it on Saturday. Never again. Next time, train." End quote. On day 60, we saw the return of nukes. Within minutes of each other, the Colonials dropped 2 warheads in Marbin Hollow, one striking Mox and the other Oster Wall. The back and forth struggle over these bases had dragged on long enough, and the Colonials ended it in fire. The Battle of Mox and Oster Wall would go down as one of Marbin Hollow's legendary fights. By this point, the war had surpassed 7.6 million total casualties, overtaking War 117's casualties to become the deadliest war in Foxhole history. And as of this day, the nuke total reached 15 launched, 12 by the Colonials and 3 by the Wardens. On day
Yeah, I wasn't too far off. I said 2, but it was 3 that Wardens launched.
Day 61, the Colonials unleashed the 16th nuke, striking from the Deadlands into Callahan's Passage. They destroyed
Again?
Solace Gorge and its last remaining storage depot in the region. By now, many storage depots across the midline had been reduced to ash, and logistics teams were struggling under immense strain to keep the fronts supplied. Day 62 turned into a cascade of Colonial victories. After nearly a week of heavy fighting, they finally drove the Wardens out of Stone Cradle, pushing them north toward Callum's Cape, a vital logistics hub. The Lynn of Mercy also fell permanently into Colonial hands, with the Wardens never returning, and to the east the Colonials swept through the Claustra, forcing the Wardens back into Weathered Expanse, which was another permanent loss for the Wardens. Later that day, the Wardens answered back with the 17th nuke of the war, destroying Lockheed and Marvin Hollow. This strike
Their fourth
eliminated
nuke.
the region's final storage depot, and with 4 nukes in total, Marvin Hollow set the record for most nuclear strikes on a single region. From this point forward, it would become a wasteland. As the day closed, the Colonials smashed through the Nevish line, capturing the capital city of the Scrying Belt in a single day's push. It was the first victory point that was taken by tanks and guns in weeks, breaking the nuclear stalemate. The war score shifted once again, bringing the Colonials to 18 out of 23, and the Wardens down to 10 out of 23. During Day 63, the Colonials began their push into the moors. One Warden base and Gravekeeper's Holdfast held out and would continue to stand until the end of the war. To the east, the Colonials advanced through Weathered Expanse and captured the capital city of Weathering Halls, shifting the score to 19 out of 23 for the Colonials and 9 out of 23 for the Wardens. That same day, total casualties for both factions surpassed 8 million. On Day 64, the Colonials launched a massive counteroffensive in Stemma
They
Landing
took it
and
over.
Fisherman's Row, securing both island regions. It had been 39 days since they controlled Stemma Landing, and 58 days since they last held Fisherman's Row.
You know what would be a nice little touch to this game? It probably is too much because it would be like probably too much resources, too many of the resources being wasted on something that's not really necessary. It's just to add a little bit of immersion. But it would be pretty neat if we could have like civilians in the towns.
Day 65 saw the siege of Callum's Cape intensify. The Wardens held firm, but the Colonials continued pressing from both the south and west. Several Warden ships attempted to flee the region towards the islands, but were intercepted and destroyed. After 6 straight days of pressure, the Colonials finally seized Callum's Cape on Day 66 and pushed into Speaking Woods. That same day, the Colonials dropped the 18th nuke of the war on the capital city of Kirknell in Viper's Pit, lowering the score to 19 out of 22 for the Colonials and 8 out of 22 for the Wardens. Using the explosion as momentum, the Colonials made major gains in Viper's Pit and opened the way into Clans Head and Howell County. Meanwhile, in the eastern islands, the Colonials reclaimed Tempest Island after 55 days of Warden control. They then pushed their navy north into Godscroft, securing it the following day. Orebreaker over in the west
some
remained the
naval
only
warfare.
island the Colonials never captured, and it ended the war with fewest casualties.
I want to see that again with the naval warfare.
The Colonials reclaimed Tempest Island after 55 days of Warden control. They then pushed their navy north into Godscroft, securing it the following day. Orebreaker over in the west remained the only island the Colonials never captured, and it ended the war with fewest casualties of any region, with just 2,800 total deaths. Near the end of Day 66, the Wardens launched the final nuke of the war, the 19th overall from Morgan's Crossing to Breakertown and Stilcan Shelf, destroying the last storage depot in the region. In total, 19 nukes were fired during this war, a record unlikely to be broken anytime soon. On Day 67, the Colonials forced the Wardens out of Callahan's Passage for good. The two factions had fought over this region for more than 60 days, leaving it with the highest death toll of any single region at 1.1 million casualties. This is what one Warden player had to say about their experience in Callahan's Passage. I want to thank 11E, 7ABR, GG, 300 and other clans for playing and helping CPass. It was a fight I've never seen before in Foxhole. It was more than 60 days in a hexagon defending against massive colonial invasions. Several times we lost ground, but we always recovered with counteroffensives. There were several joint operations, even some against Deadlands, thanks to the Colonials who also made the stop become insane. See you in the next war." End quote. The Wardens on this day would attempt a desperate counteroffensive, striking Weathered Expanse. They would launch a naval invasion on the western side of the capital city. These attacks would continue until the very end of the war. With just 2 points left to secure victory, the Colonials focused on Speaking Woods, the Moors, Reaching Trail, and Clans Head Valley. By the end of this day, the capital city of the Moors would fall, pushing the score to 21 out of 22 for the Colonials with only 1 victory point remaining. The entire entire region of the moors would collapse, except for one last base at Gravekeeper's Holdfast, which refused to fall. This is what one player had to say from that fight. Gravekeeper's Holdfast is still holding strong after receiving a massive amount of punishment, while also being completely encircled. We are still holding even though all Logi ways have been cut. Even the 4 Railstorm cannons and 8 150mm artillery pieces aren't a match for the bunker." End quote. On day 68, the Wardens made their final stands in 3 key cities: Tyne and Speaking Woods, Brodytown and Reaching Trail, and the King and Clan's Head Valley. Each city showed remarkable resilience, holding firm throughout the day. This is what one Colonial player had to say about the fight for Brodytown.
So they got blitzkrieg.
Fighting in Brodytown was rough today. Wardens shelling our town hall several times, our own rail cannon firing back, tanks pushing and dying, but it was all for nothing. The Wardens hold firm still, the Colonial side not daring to give up an inch as we fight for the final victory push." End quote. And finally, after several days of being surrounded, Gravekeeper's Holdfast in the moors would finally fall on this day. This is what one player had to say about the battle. "So proud of 101 DB. You guys not only built the best, most effective fortress I've ever encountered, but the way you prepared it and defended it was remarkable. Not only did you divert a very significant amount of Collie material and logistics away from the front, you and your allies' defense made rubble of many Colonial assets." End quote. Day 69 saw the battles continue in Tyne, Brodytown, and the King. In a surprising turn of events, the Wardens managed to push back into Weathered Expanse and retake the capital city of Weathering Halls, forcing the Colonials back to needing 2 more victory points. The Wardens held Weathering Halls for most of the day, but by the end of the day it fell once again, bringing the Colonials back to needing just one final victory point. At this point, everything hinged on which of the 3 Warden capitals would fall first. On the final day, day 70, the war would not last much longer. The 3 Warden capital cities clung desperately to life, but after 5 hours of brutal fighting, Brodytown and Reaching Trail fell. With its collapse, the longest, deadliest, and most nuclear war in Foxhole history came to an end. Overall, War 126, the Fallout War, is one we will never forget. This is what one player had to say
Before he says that, is 70 days the cap? Or is it just when they finally lost?
about the war. It was in essence our vision of the Great War. While there will be others, War 126 will be special to everyone who is a veteran of it. It was brutal, long, and hard fought by both sides." End quote. GG's to both sides that fought during this great battle, and GG's to the Colonials on your victory. I will be making a Patreon/Ko-Fi video about my honest opinions of how this war went, and how I really feel about it. I appreciate any support as it takes me a lot of time to research and make these war summaries. Thank you all so much for watching.
That's a pretty good video he did. Let me just do this. I'll link it in chat so you guys can give it a like if you haven't already. It's a pretty good video. Pretty informative of what the previous wars, or at least an idea of what the previous wars were like. But this was a one-off, like one of the rare wars where it's just so many nukes being launched and so much time passing, I guess. It was just a crazy one.
Foxhole
Okay.
wars over the course of time shift through distinct stages that completely change how the game feels. Early war is a frantic scramble that is full of chaotic skirmishes with basic rifles and grenades. Mid-war becomes a grinding contest of logistics, tanks, ships, and concrete.
Let me start it over.
Foxhole wars over the course of time shift through distinct stages that completely change how the game feels. Early war is a frantic scramble that is full of chaotic skirmishes with basic rifles and grenades. Mid-war becomes a grinding contest of logistics, tanks, ships, and concrete base building. And late war turns into an all-out brawl where morale plays an important role and high-stakes pushes shape every decision until the end of the war. These wars can last 30+ real-life days, and today we're breaking down each phase and how they shape the story of every single war. I think it's worth mentioning up front that everyone has their own take on when early, mid, and late war actually begins in Foxhole. So for this video, I'm simply sharing my perspective on where I think each stage starts and ends. The early war stage naturally begins on day 1, and in my opinion it lasts until somewhere between days 10 and 15. This is arguably the most exciting part of any war, and it's when the highest number of players are active before burnout starts to set in. Logi towns are packed packed with players hauling resources, building up their first bases, or crafting basic gear like rifles and grenades to supply those initial frontline pushes. There's a real sense of momentum during these early days, when every crate delivered and every rifle produced feels like it directly shapes every battle. New players jump in, veterans return, and the map is full of fresh opportunities waiting to be claimed. In my opinion, it's the one stage where the entire community feels energized and unified and are all racing to establish the foundations that will carry their faction into the long fight ahead. Some players love early war because it's simple. No tanks crashing down on the front lines and no artillery deleting you from across the map. It's just basic rifles and straightforward fights. This is also when you'll see groups of Mammon rushers. These are teams of 10 plus players charging defenses with Mammon grenades, because at this stage it's the most effective and honestly the most fun way to break early war defense structures. It usually pulls in random players, which helps create those chaotic, memorable battles Foxhole is known for. Around day 5, artillery starts unlocking for both sides and the battlefield begins to escalate. When this piece of equipment starts to enter the battlefield, it causes territory movement to slow as the shells start flying. Bases get hammered and players scramble to build up or repair to stay alive, which takes them away from the front lines. I made a separate video that breaks down the typical research timing for weapons, vehicles, and equipment, so I'll link it at the end of this video if you want to see the full breakdown. Of course,
I do.
not everyone enjoys early war. Some players won't even log on until tanks start appearing on the field. Light tanks like the Colonial Hatchet or the Warden Devitt usually hit the battlefield around day 10. While some might classify that as the start of the mid-war, I still consider it part of the early war. I would say you could even call it the late early war to be more accurate. By this point, coordination between infantry, tanks, and artillery starts to emerge, and the fronts move a bit slower as both sides dig in. The chaos of early war gives way to a more methodical style of fighting, where mistakes become more costly and every advance has to be carefully planned. You start to see the battlefield set into its long grind, with stalemates forming and both factions building up their defenses for the long haul. This is where the war truly begins to feel like a large-scale campaign, instead of a frantic race to grab territory. You'll also start to notice the player count drop around this time as the war progresses, which becomes an important factor when we get into the mid and late stages of the war. If you look at the Steam charts, you'll notice massive spikes at the start of every new war, followed by a steady decline as burnout and other factors begin pulling players away. This pattern has been consistent across nearly every war in Foxhole. It's a reminder that momentum isn't just about territory gains, it's also about how many players your faction can keep motivated as the days drag on, and those shifts in population often end up shaping the entire tone and pace of the war. I think it's important to note that an early lead doesn't guarantee victory. Plenty of wars have opened up with one faction dominating the first 10 to 15 days, only to have them collapse later once burnout, morale shifts, or logistics strain set in. By around day 15, the war shifts into what I consider the mid-war stage. At this point, most cruiser tanks are unlocked for both factions, all naval ships are in play, and even the heavier artillery pieces are available. This phase is where the game slows down the most. In recent wars that have stretched past 40 days, the front lines often grind to a halt around this time, sometimes with no major territorial changes for 20 days or more. Massive concrete bunker networks are usually fully built and operational by now, making it incredibly difficult for tank lines or artillery pushes to break through. Mid-war is where attrition truly becomes the defining factor, I believe. The faction that can maintain strong stockpiles, keep positions supplied, and hold the lines often ends up in the better position, because honestly at this point it becomes a waiting game until the other side burns out. A hot take some might find controversial is that population matters a lot in Foxhole. It sounds obvious from the outside, but the faction with more active players can simply do more, and that often translates into a stronger chance of winning. So if your faction went hard in the early war, and then starts logging off as the mid and late war roll in, the other side can swing the war back in their favor simply by having more people online. Some players hate this reality, feeling frustrated when their faction loses due to low numbers, but when a single quote-unquote match lasts over 30 days, faction morale and player retention become just as important as strategy. From days 15 to 25, most of the remaining tech finishes researching, which opens the door to the late war stage. By the time a war reaches day 25, normally everything in the tech tree has been unlocked, and every vehicle or weapon in the game can be produced. This is when I believe the late war starts. Interestingly enough, the late war can sometimes last just as long as the early and mid-war stages combine. In this phase, battle tanks and super heavy tanks start rolling onto the field, and these massive machines can make or break a frontline push. Another piece of equipment that appears for both factions is the nuke. Around day 25, groups begin began constructing nuke sites, eventually targeting and destroying major capital cities. Depending on how they're used, nukes can either speed up the war or drag it out even longer. One thing many players enjoy about the late war is the freedom it offers. With everything unlocked, you can finally play exactly the way you want. Stockpiles are often overflowing with vehicles and gear, so instead of gathering materials and building everything yourself, you can usually grab a tank straight from the storage depot and head right into the battle. And this is important because what ultimately matters in this stage is which side has more players actively pushing the front lines forward. If by day 30 your faction is burnt out from the early and mid-war grind, the side that still has energy in the numbers will typically prevail. As I've mentioned, players often frame this as a population issue, but personally I tend to view it as a morale issue. Maybe it's the role player enjoyer in me, but I like the idea that the side with the most grit and determination is the one that ultimately wins, instead of just using the excuse that my side had fewer players. There was a quote from a
I
dev
mean,
over
both
2
are
years
true
ago
though.
now, where they stated that they actually didn't like when wars lasted a long time. They start to get uncomfortable when the tech tree has been exhausted, and when nothing new comes out for weeks as the war drags on. I would love to hear some thoughts from the devs on the last couple of wars we've had, because it seems like the wars are starting to get longer and longer, and because wars are stretching even longer thanks to recent updates, I'd love to see the devs add more late game options beyond day 25. We've had super heavy tanks and nukes for a long time now as our late game options, and I think the game could benefit from another high-end vehicle or piece of equipment. It would be great if something came out around day 30 that helped accelerate base destruction or bring the war to a more decisive end quickly. And those are the three major stages every foxhole war goes through, each one shaping the battlefield in its own way, from the chaos of early war to the grinding stalemate of mid-war, and finally to the high-tech destruction of late war. Every phase brings its own challenges and stories. No two wars ever play out the same, but I think understanding these stages can help you appreciate the flow, and maybe even predict how the next war will unfold. What stage in Foxhole is your favorite? What do you like about it? And which stage is your least favorite? Let me know in the comments. I've started uploading more to my Patreon and Ko-Fi accounts. If you would like to watch these videos, you can support me with only $1 to gain access, or you can become a subscriber as well. This really helps support the channel and helps me pay for animations, new equipment, and the programs that I use to edit. If you are unable to support the channel financially, no problem. Watching old videos or maybe videos you haven't seen before helps a lot as well. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. I'll see you out on the battlefield. Cheers.
Here we go.
This is a horrible sandwich. What?
Hold on. I don't want to play a video that I'm not unaware of as to the contents of it. You know, I need to make sure it's not going to be something toxic.
No.
I think we'll just be done with videos for now. Time to get back to the game. Oh, yeah, we can't pick that stuff up, so. Go get some supplies. Get some more scrap to make more bee mats or powder. Actually, we should look up how to make shirts. Let me do that real quick. Let me pull myself over to the side real quick. Oh, I guess I should just... Let me continue what I was focusing on then. And I'll look up how to make shirts. Look at all these abandoned freaking vehicles. Yoink all of this. Pre-package. Oh, it didn't finish. Come on, finish. Man, that's probably the one thing I hate right now is just whenever you drive over railroad tracks, the vehicle just goes so much slower. Just remembered again. Now I gotta wait my turn. We could do that one. Let's go get more components if we can grab them. Hopefully nobody's camping them, so we can actually grab them up, scoop them up, add it to our queue. I guess the other one. Gotta go to the one with the largest amount first. We get them all. That's good for us. We're gonna make a bunch of RMAT crates for our regiment. Oh no. Okay, put him in. Oops. Assembly material? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pet this. I don't want to sit here for like for all the time I did like last time. I don't think. Let me see. I'm just gonna go back and forth between the two spots. Oh, I can't. Forgot I can't do it like that. Okay. I'm gonna hit 1500, then move out. I know I could go to the other one and do it like let's see, 148 right there. Oh, this is definitely gotta get moved. Package, move on over again. Ah, crap. Well, we may as well grab these then. It's 5,000? Hell yeah. Alright, we'll hit 2,000 of these and then we'll go take the 3,000 scrap and then move on out. Yep, okay. So, package. Yeah, I figured it was too far. Although components is probably like the thing I should just focus on. So that we can make more armats. Let's see. There's a component mine all the way over there. I don't know how likely it is to freaking get there. There's a bajillion structures in the way. Take another loot pile from this one. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna take the gamble here. I'll drive all the way over there to see if I can get it. Chances are I won't, but don't know. See. I may as well dump the load and then go pick it up. Nah, let's just go straight there. Alright, we gotta take a notice of our fuel too, because we don't have a full tank right now. And I'm hoping that I'm gonna be able to get there and back with the fuel I've got. Nice little lag spike there. What's up, Blue Flash? No prisoners. That's right. I just realized I'm going into two different hexes. It's still there. Like I said, I'm hoping I'm gonna have enough fuel to get there and back. We gotta make this right turn up ahead. The hell am I? There I am. Okay, cool. Prius, you would have fuel economy for it. True. I don't know if this is a proper gas station, but oh, no fuel. I need to get closer, maybe. I don't know if this is actually proper for me anyway. Nope. Okay, moving on. It's still banking up components, so oh, 2 tanks heading south. That's nice. All right, it should be right up ahead. Please do not have it blocked. I would hate to have to drive all the way back with nothing, you know, empty-handed after all this. Okay. Is it this one? It is this one. Hello? Game. The fuck? Is that one just out of fuel? That would be kind of shitty. I'll do this the slow way. It's better than not getting it at all. I mean, I'm doing logistics right now, so. And I beat somebody else here, so I got the components, and they get nothing. All right, sweet. Cool. We got all that. Now we're heading out. Now we gotta go home. The long ride home. Barely any gas, but we should have enough to get back. Otherwise, we're fucked. Maybe after war, a driving simulator will do. There's more to this game than just the fighting, though. You have to learn the logistics. I mean, you can get away without learning it, but with I want to learn how to do all aspects of the game. You got to do these things in order to be able to make the ammo, make the guns, make the tanks, make the shirts, and all this other crap for the war. Grenades. The shells, the nukes. Guys taking over, driving in the middle of the road.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, somebody's over there. There we go. Perfect. And then send that to the stockpile. Somebody just shot a cannon. What does it sound like?
I'm stuck.
So many people here. We gotta wait. And I'm gonna borrow one of these other vehicles over here. Locked. How about one of the... Is this one locked? Locked. How about this one? Locked. So much for leaving vehicles unlocked. I'll happily take this one. Wait, did my stuff get sent to the front line somewhere? Yep, the stuff I made, I guess, got sent off. I didn't think I thought I would have more time. Okay then. Well, if I don't have anything in storage there, then fuck it. I wanna go to the front line. Oh, yeah, so I gotta hide. Oops. Gotta hide the screen. Okay. All right, let's go to the fight. So you gotta run south and just go south. Whoop. Those are mines, I think. Yeah, that's the button. some nice juicy craters. Shot me for no reason, so I killed him. Well, I guess I'm being rescued. And I'm dead. He didn't rescue me in time. Well, I got my first. Not it's not really my first kill, but I got a kill. You know. I think it's no that. Yeah, my first my second friendly kill. So first one was an accident on day one. That one was intentional though, because the guy shot me. It's like you made me. You shot the shit. You piece of shit. I did forget to bring a bandage with me. Too heavy for one person. Hmm. Maybe that guy won't shoot me this time. Here, rest our brave medic. I don't know how to get up there. What the fuck? Maybe it's over here. Oh no, he got downed. Oh shit. Well, we're dead. Seems like snipers. Where the hell am I? Oh, okay. The nearest home base. I don't have any resources though. They only have 17 shirts left. Yeah, these guys need some resources. Wow. All right. I actually have to go. So I'll be back on either later on tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be back on later tomorrow. Take care. GG's. Have a good night. Take care. Thanks for the raid, Saint of Failure. And yeah, I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good night. If you're new and haven't followed, be sure to click that follow button. If you'd like to help support the stream, click that subscribe button down below. We'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, see ya.